Hi, I'm Steve Parker. Let's check out Ecuador. So I've decided to check out Ecuador, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First, I have some family friends that are here and that have been here for 8 years, and it really helps to have someone that you can trust in your destination. Secondly, I like the fact that I'm only about a 4.5 hour flight from Miami, and I'm based out of Central Florida, so that helps. And third, the country uses the American dollar, so I don't have to use my brain to jump through a lot of mental hoops to figure out how to buy, basic things. I'm in the heart of the city of Cuenca, which has a population of about 450,000, making it the third largest city in Ecuador behind Guayaquil and Quito. It's a relatively safe and clean city, and compared to most Latin American cities, it's really fantastic. As a matter of fact, it's recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site and is known for its Spanish influence. Here's a picture from my penthouse roof looking toward what they call El Centro, or the Central Historic District of the city, where at its heart it sits the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. It's situated on Parque Calderon, the main square of Cuenca's historic center. Construction of this cathedral began in 1885, and it's known for its distinctive blue domes, which are a hallmark of the skyline here. One of my first concerns in moving here was adjusting to the high altitude. I did notice it sapping my energy for the first few days, but I haven't had much issue beyond feeling like I have slightly less energy overall. The biggest challenge by far is communicating with the locals, as I only have about 2 months of Duolingo Spanish under my belt. However, thanks to ChatGPT, I've been able to get by and can typically pull up a phrase when needed. However, while it generally works when you're trying to buy something or get yes or no answers, it's not much help when it comes to deciphering when someone starts talking to you in Spanish, and I just have to say, no español. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The Cuencans have been very friendly to me in one-on-one encounters, and I haven't had anyone blow me off, but I do sense that those who don't speak English are a bit more hesitant to try and engage unless they have to, because Cuenca is more upscale than most other Latin American cities, though there tends to be more educated people here that can speak Spanish and English. That really helps a lot. I still go out of my way to attempt to speak Spanish, and I'm, really motivated to learn it. And I think that the locals appreciate the fact that I'm at least trying to learn their language. I live in a newer section of Cuenca that is south of the Tomibamba River that makes up the southern boundary of the historic area. The river is lined with beautiful colonial architecture, lush green spaces, and iconic stone steps that lead to the water. But due to an historic drought, the level of the river is quite low. I'm doing an almost daily walk to the west side of the historic district to a park called Plaza San Sebastian to eat at a little restaurant called Cafe San Sebas. And it's a really nice walk with a pedestrian bridge over that river. My Airbnb is literally about 10 minutes from the popular park, and it's really well kept, and there's a nice art museum on the south side. Getting around the historic district is relatively easy, but from the river it is a steep grade up some streets, or a bit of a stair stepper exercise going up numerous flights of stairs. But I'm walking as much as possible, as it's sort of a substitute for my gym workouts right now. But by far the most convenient way to get around is by taxi. And my host turned me on to an app called Azu Taxi, which is entirely in Spanish, of course, but with a little bit of help with ChatGPT, I was able to figure out the navigation fairly easily. It's not like Uber or Lyft, though, in that you can set your destination. You still have to tell the driver where to go. I usually write down the names of the location where I'm going to and the closest intersection of streets if it's not a common destination, because the drivers rarely speak English. And I typically have Google Maps open as well, and I'll show them on my screen if they appear confused, where my drop-off spot is. Taxis are cheap here, and I've not had to pay more than $2 or $3 for anywhere I've wanted to go, and they are metered, so you're not going to get ripped off. One of the great things about living in the Andes is the temperature. Every day it's typically in the low 70s during the day and mid 50s in the evening. And although we're at the equator, because of the altitude, the weather remains mild year-round. However, because we're at the equator, it also means that the UV rays are really strong. You can see I still got a bit of red in my face from the first day. I forgot to put on sunscreen. In fact, it's a good idea to wear a hat to protect your head, so my good friend Terry helped me pick out this one yesterday. And although this isn't a true woven Panama hat, which are actually made here in Ecuador, this one will hold up better in the rain, or so I'm told, as soon as it starts raining. Ecuador is in the midst of the worst drought in 61 years. And because over 90% of the country's power grid relies on hydroelectric power, they are having to ration power due to low levels of water in the country's reservoirs. That, and a combination of corruption and mismanagement of the dams here by the government, is causing some havoc. Tourism is down and businesses are suffering as the overall economy has slowed, as many people just simply stay home. Particularly in the evening, because it's just simply not safe to go out when the power is out. I've just seen it rain here twice during my first week. One was a torrential downpour, though, which brought hail and caused damage to El Centro businesses. And today, as you can see behind me, it was overcast all day, and I smelled smoke in the air. So there must be fires raging somewhere nearby. As a matter of fact, I saw a helicopter with a bucket on it, I'm pretty sure, earlier today. I've only been to a few places so far in my time here in terms of restaurants, and I'm a bit of a creature of habit, so once I find a place I like, I typically return again and again, particularly since I don't know my way around here, and a few places I definitely did not like. My favorite restaurant is Cafe San Cibo in the Plaza San Sebastian that I mentioned earlier. They have a really well-rounded menu, catering primarily to expats, I think, but I see a lot of locals there. So far I've had eggs, burritos, hamburgers. When I first arrived, I stayed at the airport Wyndham in Quito and had some local pork. It was pretty dry in my opinion. I've also had some soups that were a little bland. I did find a really great little Italian place nearby that I've gone to a couple of times. The typical meals run around $7.50, I found. I was able to get a good helping of lasagna one night to go for $5. There are street vendors all over El Centro, and several times I've gotten, cups of sliced watermelon or pineapple for $1, which are really fresh and wonderful. Bottles of water are typically 50 cents. Some better meals that I've had included salmon with mixed greens in one of the nicer restaurants in the tourism area that cost me about $18. I can tell you that the nightlife here is pretty dead on the weekdays, at least. After 11 p.m., there's just, nobody on the streets. I think it's because I arrived on a weekend where they were having a holiday, but I did find a hot spot on Calle Larga named Chipotle Grill. It's definitely priced for tourists, though, and after a dinner and a few drinks, I wound up paying a $45 bill. It was very modern, though. Had a large crowd socializing and watching football, i.e. soccer, on the television there. As a web developer, it's pretty important for me to have a stable internet connection. When the power is on, the fiber here at my Airbnb works pretty well, but 2 streaming meetings were a disaster. I'm not quite sure why. It seems that although the speed of the connection looks good when I use speed test, it's intermittent. I haven't determined if it's due to the provider, the Wi-Fi network, or possibly my VPN service. There's really only 2 options when the power is off. First is the cellular network, and I'm paying for Movistar through Aralo, which is an eSIM company that provides plans worldwide. It seems fairly reliable, but it's really expensive at $32.50 for 5 gigabytes of data. And I've been burning through about 2 gigabytes a day. So that's not really sustainable. So I've done a few things. I've turned off all my cellular connections on my apps and only left it to Notes, a VPN, and ChatGPT, of course. The way I plan to work moving forward, though, is using Starlink when the power is down and when we have no fiber connection or Wi-Fi. The area you see behind me on, atop this Airbnb is the rooftop penthouse. So I have access to the sky, and prior to flying to Ecuador, I work with my host to use their information to order the unit as an Ecuadorian and have it shipped from the US. It's currently awaiting pickup at DHL office. It's a Starlink Mini, and it literally is the size of a letter, and it only draws about 40 watts. So I flew in with two 100-watt power banks, which should be enough to keep the Starlink going for about 4 to 5 hours while I work with a laptop, on battery power. It appears the blackouts are going to increase to about 8 hours a day, though, but that's in 2 4-hour increments. So I think I'm covered, fingers crossed. Now that I'm essentially set up for business here in Ecuador, I'm going to help other solopreneurs and digital nomads that are interested in Latin America and particularly Ecuador to navigate the challenges of gearing up, moving, legalities, healthcare, and a bunch of random tips to get acclimated to working in a developing country. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Leave me a comment if there's anything in particular you would like me to cover. Adios, amigos.